Hello and welcome to Gardening Naturally with Green Fingertips with me, Josie Rainbird, your natural gardening coach. Today I want to talk to you about 10 perennial fruit and veg that you can grow in your garden to save you money on your food bills. So if that interests you, keep on watching. So one of my favourite perennial fruits, if you like, even though it's a vegetable fruit, is rhubarb. So rhubarb can be quite a tricky plant to grow. Some people find it like a weed. It'll just keep growing and growing and they never have to worry about it. But some places it can be quite difficult. They don't like the weather to be too hot and too dry, but they don't like it also to be cold and damp. So they are quite a pedantic little plant. So a really good way of making sure that the plant stays nice and healthy and happy is giving them a good mulch in early spring. They need to make sure that when you mulch them that you don't cover the top of the crown as well, because they don't like that either. But the mulching will help to retain moisture in the ground as well and to keep the plant healthy. Now you can get faster growth from a rhubarb crown by forcing it early in the year. So you cover the crown with a rhubarb forcer or a big bucket or barrel as well, just to cut the light out. So the leaves are then drawn to the small amount of light that they can see, they can feel. They're drawn upwards. So the leaves will then, they won't be that nice lush green colour that you're used to seeing on a rhubarb leaf. They'll be quite pale, like yellowy if you like, but the stems is what you want. So this will make the stems nice and long and produce a lot more growth, if you like, out of them by forcing the leaves to grow upwards. This is a very effective way of getting more stems out of your plant. Now we've got quite a damp garden and rhubarb is nobody fussed about growing in my garden, but I do have friends and family that have massive plants and I do get donated quite a lot of rhubarb through the year. So rhubarb's one of my faves. But as a perennial vegetable, I am quite grateful to have a bit of rhubarb in my life. Now my next favourite of my 10 perennial fruit and vegetables that you can grow in your garden to save you lots of money on your food bills are herbs. Now there are many herbs that I can name that are very easy to grow in your garden, but a few are perennial. So these are a few of my favourite perennial herbs that you can grow and forget about in your garden. So number one is chives. Chives is one of my favourites. The smell of them when you crunch them up, the oniony smell is lovely. The purple flower, that if you let a chive flower, the purple flower that opens up, the nice allium looking flower, the bees love it, absolutely love it, and they'll fly for miles to find find a chive flower. So if you have some chives in your garden, let a clump of them flower and just see how many bees you get, honestly. They are a very effective way of attracting pollinators into your garden. So another reason I really like chives in the garden. But they'll just, if you cut them back at the end of the year, the end of like the autumn time, you start to see them, they're not so green, they're looking a bit weathered and unhappy, give them a good haircut and then leave them to it. And then as the springtime and the weather starts to warm up, the soil starts to warm up, they will then come back to life quite happily and they'll keep growing. So you don't have to do anything really to a chive plant and they'll just keep coming back. Just keep giving them a haircut and they'll keep producing new leaves, let a few flower every now and then and attract some bees in, and you're on to a winner. So my next one is thyme. I like a thyme plant in my garden. The smell is amazing. I've got them quite close to the path edge as well. So when you brush past them, you get a nice whiff of thyme, which is lovely, very nice. And it's really good for cooking as well. So I use it in my cooking. So that's a really nice perennial herb that you can grow in your garden quite easily. They do tend to spread quite well and you can very effectively propagate these plants by just literally taking a section of plant and root out and cutting it away from the main plant and then repotting it or putting it somewhere else in the garden. They propagate quite happily like that, not a problem. Mint. Now again, mint can come in many different forms. I think I've got 4 types of mint in my garden currently. My favourite obviously being the peppermint, standard mint as I call it. These mints are all grown in containers because they are very invasive plants. I grow them in containers so that there are no roots in the ground because I would never get them out of the ground again. I'd never be able to remove them from the garden. So they're all grown in containers. Mint, I've got the peppermint in the garden, I've got pineapple mint, I've got licorice mint, and I have got chocolate mint. Mints are very effective, beneficial insect attractors. If you let them flower, but the smell on the leaves alone attracts in. They're very good companion plants because, as I say, the scent of the leaves will disguise the scent of any plants that the insects that are looking to eat them are looking for. So they're very effective, like camouflage, if you like, scent-based camouflage for your plants that you want to save in your garden. So mint's very effective at that. So is parsley for that scent, that strong smell. So herbs are really good at companion planting on this fact. They do protect and camouflage a lot of plants. So the different mint plants I've got in the garden are dotted around sort of my vegetable patch area, and they work really nice as companion plants. Mint is very nice to be mixed with a summer cocktail, I will say. Nice bit of Pimm's. So very nice for that. But they're also really nice in some new potatoes, just left on there, mixed in with the new potatoes. We like a bit of mint. But the chocolate mint that I grew with my friends actually used it in a mojito. And she said it gave it a really nice, like, aero-esque smell to it. So that went really well. So she liked that, which I'd never thought to use. So mint's very effective and one of my favourite perennial herbs. They're my favourite types of perennial herbs that you can grow in the garden quite effortlessly. Next on my list for perennial fruit and veg you can grow in your garden quite effortlessly. Asparagus is a bit of an investment plant. You buy a crown, you have to wait a year before it gets any spears from it. Then you've got to kind of support it through it, and then you can only cut it at certain times of the year. But actually asparagus is one of quite an expensive vegetable to buy from a supermarket. So if you're growing it in your garden, year after year, you only have to invest in it once, and you can save yourself a fortune if you buy it from the supermarkets. So next on my list is globe artichokes. Globe artichokes can be grown just for the flowers, which is the part that you eat. But they're very nectar rich, and so they attract in an awful lot of pollinators. So the benefits that can push out into the garden is just perfect. So they're worth growing just for that. But if you harvest the early flowers from them before they open out into like a thistle top, when they're still like quite enclosed in, they're very tasty, and you can roast them and use the core as the pulp into like a dip, if you like, and then you can use the outside scales as like a nacho chip, which is really nice. When you let them grow into a flower as well, they do attract in all sorts of beneficial insects as well to your garden. And being a perennial vegetable, they'll keep growing back year after year. So if you cut off a few of the flowers to eat, and leave a few to grow to flower to attract in the bees and the beneficial insects, then you're going to be supporting yourself and your garden all at once. And they're going to keep going back year after year with a bit of a haircut towards the end of the season. And you can even divide them up when they get big enough. So then you can like move them around your garden as well and have more plants. So they're a very good perennial vegetable, and they do produce an awful lot of flowers. Now my last one for vegetables is garlic. Now this may not seem like much of a perennial vegetable, but actually by growing garlic, you actually save a clove from various different garlic bulbs that you actually grow, and then replant them the next year for like in the autumn winter time for the next year's crop. That in my eyes makes them a perennial, but they're a very good, strictly speaking, not a perennial. These ones for fruit are currants and berries. Now I've got quite a few different currants in the garden, red currants, white currants, black currants, various different sorts. And I've also got quite a few different berries in the garden, raspberries, strawberries, blueberries as well, along with loganberries and blackberries and all sorts of things growing in the garden. Now these are all perennial, and they will keep growing back year after year. They do take a little bit of care and training, especially the blackberries. I've got 2 thornless blackberries and a thornless loganberry, and then a lot of spiky blackberries as well. But they do take some training, and they do take some care for the first year or so. But after that, they're really good. They'll just, as long as they're trained out, they will keep producing lots of fruit. But it's really nice to have that kind of fruit, fresh fruit, available in the garden. I've also got gooseberries in the garden as well, which the birds love. I don't net them, which I should do because that would help me get more. I don't mind the birds getting a few. I just have to know when they're ready, keep an eye on them and get out there before they see them. It's fine, but I don't mind them having a few. I hope you can grab some sort of inspiration from this and start growing more perennial fruit and vegetables in your garden. So if you've got any questions, feel free to comment below. If you like this video, I'll ask you give us a thumbs up, because it helps the YouTubes show my video to more people. And if you want to see more videos like this from Gardening Naturally of Green Fingertips from myself, if you click the subscribe button and the little bell, you'll be notified when my videos come out each week. On that note, I'll see you later.